I loved, but when Ethan, exploding with desire, pressed me firmly against the wall, my whole body trembled. His chest was solid against mine, his breath hot and uneven against my skin. I could barely breathe, my heart pounding so loud it drowned every thought. My hands gripped his shirt, desperate and shaking, while guilt whispered that this was wrong. Yet the fire spreading through me made it impossible to let go. We kissed with a hunger I had never known before. His lips claimed mine fiercely, pulling me deeper into the danger I swore I'd resist. Ethan's hands slid under the hem of my blouse, his touch scorching, making my knees weak. I melted into him, into the forbidden taste of something I was never meant to have. Every second made me forget where we were, who we were supposed to be. His fingers moved slowly, tugging at the buttons, pushing fabric aside as if nothing else in the world mattered. My body arced toward him, begging for more, for the relief of giving in completely. His breath tangled with mine, rough and urgent as if he had waited a lifetime for this. I whispered his name, broken, half plea, half surrender. And that moment, I wasn't a wife. He wasn't just a brother-in-law. We were fire burning too close to explode. The air grew heavy, thick with heat and danger. His mouth traced down my neck, his grip firm as if anchoring me to the reality we both wanted to escape. My blouse slipped off my shoulders, falling somewhere on the floor I couldn't see. My heartbeat raced faster than the city lights outside, faster than the taxis rushing through Manhattan. We were drowning in a secret we couldn't ever confess. And then, bang! A sudden knock at the door shattered the moment. My whole body froze, breath caught in my throat, terror flashing in my eyes. Ethan pulled back instantly. We stared at each other in panic, every nerve screaming that this was the end. But then, a small scratch, a soft meow. Relief flooded the room as I saw our gray cat pawing at the door, desperate to come in. My heart was still racing, not from fear anymore, but from the reminder of how dangerously close we had just been. I pulled my blouse back over my shoulders, trembling, as Ethan gave me a crooked smile that said, "This isn't over."
My name is Alba. I've been married to Arnold for 5 years, and in all that time, I never felt close to his brother, Ethan. He was always the funny one, quick with the joke, charming in ways that felt harmless. At least, that's what I thought. I never imagined he would dare cross the line. But sometimes, one night is enough to change everything. Thanksgiving dinner had filled our mansion with laughter and music. Friends chatted loudly, glasses clinked, and the scent of roasted turkey lingered in the air. Ethan was, of course, one of the guests, sitting across the table with that careless smile that made everyone lean in to listen. I caught his eyes on me once or twice, but I dismissed it. He was always like that. As the night stretched on, the drinks flowed heavier. Stories got louder, laughter deeper. One by one, the men slipped outside into the garden to smoke cigars, their voices echoing against the cold November air. Arnold disappeared with them, leaving me behind. I wandered into the library, craving a little silence, a little space, and poured myself another glass of wine. The fire crackled in the fireplace, shadows dancing across the rows of old books. I swirled the wine in my glass, savoring the ruby red color, the bitter taste on my tongue. For the first time that night, I felt alone. I leaned back into the leather chair, letting the warmth of the drink sink into my body, when I sensed the movement behind me. I turned, and there he was, Ethan, standing in the doorway, his eyes locked on me in a way they never had before. There was no playful smile, no careless joke, just a hunger so raw it made my breath hitch. He stepped closer, each stride slow, deliberate, as though he had been waiting for this exact moment. Before I could speak, before I could even set my glass down, he was there, looming over me, trapping me with his presence. His hand brushed the arm of my chair, caging me in, his body lowering toward mine. His voice was low, rough, and dangerously steady. "Do you have any idea what you do to me, Alba?" I froze, the world spinning, my pulse hammering in my throat. This wasn't the Ethan I thought I knew. This was a man ready to claim what he had been hiding for years.
Flames. That's the only word I can use to describe what burned inside me when Ethan pressed himself against me. The fire in the fireplace was nothing compared to the glow in his eyes, the way his presence swallowed the air. I'd been married to Arnold for 5 years, but in that instant, my body betrayed me, yearning for what I'd never known. Ethan's hands traced the line of my arms, sending shivers down my spine. His lips hovered dangerously close, and every nerve in my body screamed with desire. The walls of the library seemed to disappear, leaving just the two of us in a world where nothing else mattered. I knew it was wrong, knew the guilt would consume me later, but the present was impossible to resist. Our lips finally met in a searing kiss, intense and urgent. Ethan's grip on my waist tightened, pulling me closer. The heat of his chest, the heat of his breath, the desperate rhythm of his heartbeat, it was overwhelming. I could feel his desire burning inside him, and I knew he wanted me as much as I wanted him. He began to slowly lift my shirt, caressing every inch of skin he could touch. My hands tangled in his hair, panting with a mixture of shock, fear, and pleasure. The mansion library seemed to pulse with our energy, each heartbeat echoing like a drum. I knew Arnold would never understand this fire, this raw, uncontrollable need that Ethan had ignited within me. My body trembled, our lips were on fire, my body was in ecstasy. Ethan left and left me like that. Ethan's wry smile made me think, I never imagined this would happen. Of all time with my brother-in-law, I had been unfaithful. I slumped against the shelves, my heart still racing, shame and desire warring inside me. I knew what we were doing was wrong, forbidden and dangerous. But in that moment, there was no turning back. Ethan had awakened something inside me that even Arnold couldn't reach. I know it's wrong, but I couldn't resist. The next morning, the mansion felt heavier somehow, as if the walls themselves remembered last night's fire. I kept replaying Ethan's touch, the warmth, the heat, and the impossible pull between us. Every corner of the library seemed to whisper temptation, and I couldn't shake the guilt gnawing at me. Arnold was downstairs, calm and unsuspecting, sipping his coffee, but I felt a storm brewing under the surface. Ethan appeared, as if summoned, leaning casually against the doorway. His smirk was soft, teasing, dangerous. "Morning trouble?" he said, his voice low, and I felt the same rush as last night. I wanted to tell him to leave, to stay away, but the pull was magnetic. My pulse raced at the sight of him, and I knew my restraint was cracking faster than ever. We moved through the mansion like predators, careful to avoid Arnold, but every glance carried electric tension. Ethan's presence was intoxicating, like a dangerous drug I couldn't refuse. Even in the kitchen, the mundane act of making breakfast became charged with stolen looks and subtle touches. I hated myself for craving him, yet every second with him made me feel alive in ways Arnold never had. By mid-afternoon, friends and family arrived for a casual brunch. The laughter and chatter made my head spin, and every time Ethan brushed past me, my body reacted before my brain could catch up. I caught myself retreating to corners, pretending to check the wine cellar just to steal a private moment.
Each of those moments was a battle, desire versus guilt, temptation versus loyalty. The city outside gleamed under the winter sun. Through the large windows, I could see Central Park sparkling with frost, a serene contrast to the chaos in my chest. Ethan leaned close enough for his breath to brush my ear, whispering something innocent that made my stomach twist. The thrill of almost being caught, the danger of anyone noticing, made everything more addictive, more dangerous. That night, alone in my room, I pressed my palms to my face, heart racing. I knew I was walking a razor's edge, and Ethan's touch haunted every nerve. I whispered to the dark, "It's wrong. It's so wrong." But my body remembered every second, every shiver, every flame. And I knew, deep down, this was only the beginning.
The next few days were a dangerous dance. Arnold seemed oblivious, absorbed in business calls and meetings across Manhattan, while Ethan lingered just enough to make my heart race. Every casual touch, every lingering glance in the kitchen or hallway was a reminder of the fire we'd ignited. I hated myself for it, yet craved it more with each passing hour. Ethan found ways to appear when I least expected it. In the living room, brushing past to grab a book, his hand grazed mine. A jolt shot through me, and I caught myself gasping subtly, my pulse betraying me. He smiled knowingly, that dangerous smirk I couldn't resist, and whispered, "You feel it too, don't lie." My knees almost buckled at his words. Arnold's presence downstairs was like a shadow over our private chaos. I caught him giving subtle looks, sharp, inquisitive, something unspoken in his gaze. Ethan's eyes met mine across the room, a silent warning and a promise all at once. Every interaction felt like playing with fire, each smile and glance loaded with tension I could barely contain. By evening, I found myself in the library again, alone, or so I thought. Ethan appeared from the hallway like a phantom, leaning against the doorway, watching me with intense, smoldering eyes. The air between us vibrated with electricity. I knew I should turn away, that it was dangerous, forbidden, and yet I stepped closer, surrendering to the pull I couldn't fight. He brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, fingers lingering on my cheek. My body responded before my mind could, every nerve alive, every heartbeat pounding. I wanted to stop, to pull back, but the fire in Ethan's eyes and the heat in his touch left me powerless. "Alba," he murmured, voice low and rough. "Why fight it?" I swallowed hard, knowing the answer would destroy me. The night ended with me standing at the balcony, staring at the Manhattan skyline, heart racing and guilt twisting in my stomach. Ethan's words echoed, my pulse refusing to calm. I whispered to the cold wind, "It's wrong, but I can't stop." The city glittered beneath us, innocent and unaware of the storm raging in my chest. The following evening, the mansion felt tighter, as if every wall was watching. I lingered in the study, pretending to organize papers, but my thoughts were consumed by Ethan. Each memory of his touch, his smirk, made my pulse race. I knew it was dangerous, Arnold downstairs unsuspecting, but the temptation was irresistible. Ethan appeared silently, as if he could read my mind. He leaned close, and the scent of his cologne made my knees weak. "You're impossible," he whispered, his lips brushing my ear, igniting a fire I couldn't resist. My hands trembled, and I pressed myself against the desk, heart pounding, knowing the risk of being caught. Every sound from the hallway made my stomach twist. Footsteps echoed, a shadow moved, and I froze. But Ethan didn't stop. He claimed me in whispers and touches, drawing me closer. My body responded, betraying my conscience, and every nerve screamed with desire I'd never felt with Arnold. Suddenly, the hallway creaked, and my chest sank. Arnold's voice called from the staircase, casual but sharp. Panic surged. Ethan pulled back, his eyes dark and dangerous, and I tried to steady my breathing. The risk of discovery made the moment even more intoxicating, a forbidden thrill only he could provoke.
I watched him disappear like smoke into the hallway, and I leaned against the desk, sweat prickling my skin. My heart still raced, guilt gnawing at me. Yet I craved more. Ethan had awakened something inside me, a fire I knew was wrong, but I couldn't stop it. That night, I lay in bed next to Arnold, pretending to sleep. Every creak in the house, every shadow, reminded me of Ethan's presence. I whispered to myself, "It's wrong, so wrong," but my body remembered every touch, every whisper. The desire had me in its grip, and I was powerless to resist.
The city lights of New York flickered through the library windows as I nursed my wine glass, pretending calm. Ethan appeared behind me, his presence sudden and magnetic, sending shivers down my spine. His hand brushed mine under the table, subtle but electrifying. I swallowed hard, guilt and longing colliding, knowing any second could bring Arnold upstairs. My pulse raced uncontrollably, craving what I shouldn't want. He leaned close, his breath warm against my neck, and whispered words that made my knees weak. Every subtle touch was a promise of danger, a thrill that consumed me entirely. I felt alive in a way Arnold had never awakened, intoxicated by Ethan's boldness. The mansion was silent, but our secret burned louder than any caution. Desire and fear tangled in every stolen glance, impossible to ignore. A sudden laugh echoed from the hallway, guests returning unexpectedly from the garden. Ethan's eyes darkened with mischief as he pressed me against the bookshelf, hiding me from view. I tried to steady my breathing, but my body betrayed me, every inch craving his nearness. The adrenaline of nearly being caught only intensified the fire between us. I whispered a warning, yet couldn't resist his dangerous magnetism. Minutes stretched like hours as we lingered, every sound threatening exposure. Ethan's fingers traced patterns on my arm, teasing me into a dizzy, sinful surrender. I fought the temptation, knowing Arnold's presence could destroy everything in an instant. Yet the thrill of forbidden contact was intoxicating, irresistible. Each heartbeat echoed the dangerous rhythm we shared, uncontainable and raw. Finally, he stepped back, lips curled into a victorious smirk, leaving me breathless and trembling. The mansion felt impossibly quiet after he vanished, my chest still aflame with longing. I sank into the nearest chair, guilt gnawing at me like fire. The line between right and wrong blurred as I realized how deep my obsession had grown. New York sparkled outside, oblivious to the chaos burning inside me. Arnold's absence that evening felt like a blessing and a curse. Alone in the study, I sipped my wine, pretending to read, but Ethan's shadow fell over the pages. His presence was magnetic, almost suffocating, drawing me closer without a word. Every brush of his fingers against mine sent jolts of heat through my body. I knew I should pull away, but temptation had me frozen. He pressed his chest lightly against my back, his lips near my ear, and whispered my name with a dangerous promise. The mansion felt smaller, as if walls had narrowed to contain our forbidden fire. My pulse raced, breath shallow, betraying the restraint I tried to muster. Each second was a delicate balance between ecstasy and imminent exposure. The thrill of being nearly caught made my desire burn even brighter. A creak from the hallway made me flinch, heart hammering against my ribs. Ethan's hand slid to the small of my back, steadying me as if to shield me from detection. I could feel every muscle tense, every nerve alive, the danger making each touch even more intoxicating. My body reacted instinctively, betraying every moral restraint I clung to. One wrong move, and our secret could explode into chaos. He leaned in, lips brushing my shoulder, and I shivered violently. The scent of his cologne mixed with the faint smoke from the fireplace clouded my senses. My thoughts scattered, caught between guilt and uncontrollable hunger. I whispered, "We shouldn't," but the words faltered under the weight of raw desire. Ethan's smirk was victory and temptation all at once, impossible to resist. By the time the library door clicked from the hallway, I nearly jumped out of my skin.
Ethan stepped back calmly, eyes dark, unreadable, leaving me trembling in his wake. My chest burned with the memory of his touch, and guilt clawed at my stomach like a predator. The mansion was silent again, but I knew the storm had only intensified. Desire had taken hold, and there was no turning back.
Arnold's gaze had been sharper all week, subtle hints of suspicion lingering in his eyes. I tried to act normal at dinner, laughing at jokes, keeping my hands folded neatly. But Ethan's smirk across the table burned into me, a silent dare I couldn't resist. Every brush of his leg under the table made my heart stutter uncontrollably. The thrill of risk consumed me, intoxicating and dangerous. Later, in the quiet of the library, Ethan cornered me with that confident, reckless smile. His fingers traced patterns on my arm, each touch igniting fire across my skin. I bit my lip, knowing Arnold could walk in at any moment, shattering the fragile illusion. My body betrayed me with every gasp, every subtle shiver of longing. Desire and danger danced in perfect, irresistible sync. The city lights of New York twinkled outside, oblivious to the storm inside our walls. Ethan pressed me against the bookshelf, his chest firm, his eyes dark and demanding. My hands trembled as he leaned closer, whispers brushing my ear, teasing my senses. Every nerve screamed in rebellion, craving what I knew was forbidden. The line between right and wrong blurred, leaving only heat and hunger. A sudden laugh from the hallway made me freeze, heart pounding in my ears. Ethan pulled back smoothly, as if nothing had happened, his smirk victorious. I sank into the nearest chair, trembling, sweat prickling my skin, mind spinning with guilt. Arnold's presence was a looming threat, yet every moment with Ethan only deepened the craving. I whispered to myself, "This is wrong, but I can't stop it." By the time the night ended, I was consumed with tension and forbidden desire. Ethan's shadow lingered in my mind, each glance, each touch etched into memory. I lay in bed beside Arnold, pretending sleep, yet every heartbeat called Ethan's name. Desire had claimed me completely, reckless and undeniable. I knew the danger was escalating, and surrendering only made it worse. I was alone in the study, heart racing as Ethan leaned against the desk, his hand brushing mine with deliberate intent. The heat between us was unbearable, every touch igniting fire I couldn't contain. I closed my eyes, surrendering to the forbidden, knowing Arnold's voice could echo any second. The mansion felt impossibly silent, the tension thick enough to suffocate. Desire and guilt collided in an impossible storm. Ethan pressed me gently against the wall, lips hovering just inches from mine. My body responded instinctively, craving him despite every warning in my mind. Whispers of longing filled the room, breaths mingling, hearts racing in dangerous sync. Time slowed, the outside world fading, leaving only the two of us trapped in this dangerous moment. I knew I was walking a razor's edge. A sudden door creak froze us mid-motion, panic crashing through my veins. Arnold stood there, eyes wide, every detail of our closeness revealed in an instant. Ethan stepped back, calm, yet dangerous. But the damage was done. My face burned, shame and fear flooding through me like wildfire. Words failed me, and my chest tightened with the weight of exposure. Arnold's voice trembled, low and sharp. "Alba, what is happening here?" Every instinct screamed to explain, to apologize, yet I could barely form a coherent sentence. Ethan's gaze never wavered from mine, dark and protective, even as suspicion tore through the room. I felt trapped between two worlds, desire and loyalty, lust and guilt. The tension in the mansion had reached its breaking point.
The silence was suffocating, the room charged with raw tension. Arnold's eyes burned with betrayal, every muscle in his body taut with anger. Ethan stood beside me, calm, confident, yet undeniably dangerous. My heart raced, torn between the man I married and the desire I couldn't deny. Every glance between them was a spark, threatening to ignite chaos. "I trusted you." Arnold's voice cracked, heavy with disbelief. I swallowed hard, unable to speak, knowing words could never undo what had happened. Ethan's hand brushed mine subtly, a silent reassurance, daring me to defy guilt. The mansion felt smaller, the walls closing in, every shadow magnifying the tension. I realized there was no hiding now. Everything was exposed. Ethan leaned in slightly, whispering my name with the same intensity that had haunted my dreams. Arnold's fists clenched at his sides, a storm barely contained behind his gaze. Desire and betrayal collided, leaving me dizzy, breathless, and painfully aware of every heartbeat. My body and mind were at war, craving the forbidden even as reality screamed danger. The room was a battlefield of love, lust, and fury. Finally, Arnold exhaled, a long, shaky breath, as if the rage had drained some of its venom. Ethan didn't move, yet his presence was a challenge and a comfort all at once. I pressed my hand to my chest, trying to steady the chaos within me, knowing the path forward was uncertain. The flames of passion and betrayal had consumed every safety net. Nothing would ever be simple again. As the night stretched on, we stood trapped in the aftermath of our choices. Secrets had exploded, hearts had burned, and the mansion itself seemed to tremble under the weight of desire and deceit. I knew the story between Arnold, Ethan, and me was far from over. Each glance, each touch, each word carrying the danger of another spark. The fire we had ignited would either destroy us or forge a bond none could resist. And I, Alba, was powerless to turn away.